for nutrition, because that's another critical part. We have the recovery outside the gym. Like most people don't realize they're going on 4 or 5 hours of sleep and they don't know why they can't lose weight or they can't build muscle. So yes, sleep is scientifically proven. Your body's not going to change with insufficient sleep. It's just too stressed out. Similarly, you can't, I think you said this earlier, but you can't really work out a bad diet. And most people's diets, you know, they go to the gym, they go on the treadmill or they lift weights or what have you, but they can't transform. And the root is not lack of effort in the gym, even bad effort, even a bad program. It's the diet that's holding them back. So what's your diet like?
Yeah, so it's definitely important to gauge whether or what your goal is when it comes to, you know, structuring a diet plan. You know, obviously, if you want to lose weight, you don't want to be in a caloric surplus. You want to like maybe subtract maybe like 500 calories from your maintenance calories, and then, you know, assess from there if you're see how much weight you're losing, and then you can kind of like gauge from there. And then obviously, if you want to gain weight, maybe go in like a 500 calorie surplus. So kind of just like little increments of like whatever hundreds to kind of gauge how much you're losing, how much you're putting on. Make sure you're not losing too much or putting on, or vice versa.
Right.
But for my diet, I'm kind of sitting at like my maintenance weight right now. I'm not really eating as much as I should if I wanted to like gain weight. That's for sure.
Okay.
But, my priority right now is just basically to, you know, be healthy. Longevity is definitely like kind of taken over in terms of like when I first started, I was just like get big, get strong by any means possible, do whatever it takes. Probably not the best in terms of overall health. But now I'm a little bit more smarter now, and kind of my priority is just like, you know, live as long as I can, like be healthy, like eat the right foods. So closest kind of diet I would say that I'm following is kind of like a vertical-ish diet, which is like Stan Efferding. It's like Stan Efferding is like a famous powerlifter. He kind of coined this meal plan, just basically just like red meat, like potatoes, rice. So what I eat mostly is kind of it's just like either grass-fed beef, like ribeyes, a lot of just red meat and like rice and potatoes, and like everything's organic, grass-fed. You want to look for grass-fed in terms of like, you know, the quality.
Yeah, because some people might be thinking when you say a lot of red meat, they're thinking of maybe studies on red meat showing bad things. But like you, I eat grass-fed red meat. You know, my blood work is great. Don't have any problems there. It's clean. It's a cow that ate grass. It's not pumped full of hormones or antibiotics. It's a cow from what your grandparents or great-grandparents would have had access to.
I'm exactly. You know, I'm definitely like keen on living a more ancestrally consistent lifestyle, like kind of how our ancestors would eat, like all organic, really as much as I can. The safest bet in terms of like a grain-fed cow, like it's, you know, they can pump them with a bunch of antibiotics, hormones, like you said, and grains. Like it's just not like that. That's a dying animal if you think about it. Like very short lifespan. Like it's very depleted, and like, you know, even like they'll spray like herbicides and fertilizer and pesticides on grains that they eat, which is obviously not good. And so it's definitely important to get grass fed and grass finished too. Like you can get something could be like grass fed and it says grass fed, but that doesn't mean it's grass finished. So just grass fed means that they might have eaten grass at one point in their life, but then they'll get a bunch of grains and fatten them up towards the end.
Fatten them up, right.
So at the end of the day, it's just the healthier the animal, the more nutrients that's going to be consistent with the animal, and like leads to a more healthier cut of meat. So yeah, lots of meat. And I think it's the most like anabolic form of protein, in my opinion, most mineral dense. And I mix a lot. When I make my ground beef, I mix it with liver, also grass fed. And I'll get that from like either Whole Foods or farmer's market. And it's good to mix that in. Liver is probably like, it's known as like nature's multivitamin. It's got everything in there.
Yeah.
So you definitely can't go wrong there. And it's definitely heavy in copper as opposed to like just red or like ribeye or like the muscle meat is heavy in iron. So it's good. Copper like balances out the iron. So it's good to eat them together. So those are two of my main protein sources. And I still eat chicken every now and then. It's just not as nutrient packed as like something like, you know, beef or liver, obviously. Yeah, liver is probably like the most like jam packed full of vitamins and minerals that you can get.
And you're a pretty lean person. I mean, you have 6-pack abs, which most guys would love to have. I think some people might also think, oh, you know, if I eat a lot of beef, I'll get fat, etc. But they don't realize the protein. Like your diet is very high in protein, which is necessary. It's satiating. I'm assuming you're not starving, you're not ravenous, you're not miserable, moody, you're not having brain fog because you don't eat enough carbs, etc., etc. You probably feel great as well as looking great.
Yeah, I definitely get enough carbs for sure. But it's also like really genetics. Like, you know, contrary to your situation, I started out very skinny, like, so I'm naturally like an ectomorph, like mesomorph type body physique. It was more harder for me to pack on weight for me naturally just being like a smaller kid or a smaller like physique. So I definitely had to work that much harder, like, you know, eat as much possible. Yeah, I didn't really like. I was always like naturally lean, so I always had like a relatively, I was relatively lean, like no matter what, really. Which some people like might hate me for that, but but yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's just if you're naturally like a bigger guy, like you'd have to work a little bit harder and make sure you're more meticulous about how you're tracking your meals, like you're in a caloric deficit. Obviously, like calories in, calories out is a big component to that. Cardio might help with that too. So it's just basing it off your goals, really, for sure.
Gotcha.